everybody, my name is Abby. I've never really made a video like this before, but I just wanted to make a video for people who are planning on going to study abroad or study for a year in Spain. I just went through the application process for studying in Spain for a year, so I have a student visa that will be good for until I get there and have to apply for the TIE, which is like the foreigner identity card. But before that, I just wanted to walk through the application process for how to get a visa. I know it was really stressful for me, and having a video like this hopefully will be helpful to those who just some things are like really vague or you're not really understanding exactly what to do. I couldn't really find a video like this when I was looking, so I thought it'd be helpful if I tried to make a video and explain some of the thought process and primarily like how and when to do certain things, because this is a very long and in-depth process and it's going to take some planning out and getting organized beforehand. Coming from North Carolina, so I used the DC consulate to get my visa. If you're from a different part of the United States, you'll have to use a different consulate depending on your jurisdiction. So just check out the visa website to see which area you fall into. But I will be specifically talking about the DC consulate. Each consulate varies a little bit, so just make sure you're aware of what your specific consulate requires. The first thing you're going to want to do is go on your consulate's website, your specific consulate, and look at the list of steps that are required to obtain your visa. It should be about 10, I think, 10 or 11, and if you're a minor, it's significantly longer. But this is just a list of the steps you need. And I've decided to kind of take those out of the order that they're in, presented on at least the DC website, because I think some of them are more important to do before you do some of the others, because especially the criminal record check, it's going to take forever. Just the bureaucratic processes of getting that through the government, through the mail, and then coming back to you, it just takes quite a bit of time. So I would do those before you do some of the other steps. So I think you should start with making a doctor's appointment. That would be my number one. I think it's just better to go ahead and schedule that for just sometime in the future before you have all of your documents together to get your visa. It's just better to have that appointment beforehand, so you don't have to scramble around and try to get an appointment last minute when you have all your other papers together. Number two, I would go ahead and get started on the criminal record check certificate. This is found on the FBI website, which I will link down below. And so first you're going to Google, if you don't look at the links below, Google FBI criminal background check, and this will bring you to a page. The title will be Identity History Summary Checks, also known as rap sheets. And so it'll give you the option between the online and the mail-in version of this. I recommend the online version just because it's quicker, but you can do the mail-in if you prefer. And so if you want to do the online version, which is what I did, you click submit your request online, and this will bring you to a website with many more steps that you have to complete for this process. And so just follow these steps. The first thing you're going to want to do is enter your email, and this will get you started and into the system. And then after you've done all this, you request an identity history summary check, and then it will ask you to pay the US Treasury, I believe. It's $18, and make sure you're using Firefox or Internet Explorer when you're doing this, because I tried to use Google Chrome and it just is not compatible with that format and that software. So make sure if you have an error or something, make sure you're using those specific browsers. And after you do this, you'll receive a confirmation code and a payment verification code sent directly to your email. And I would print this paper out. I think it's good to have on hand because you're probably going to need that confirmation code when you go to a third party to get your digital fingerprints. And speaking of the fingerprints, after you pay the $18, it should take you to a page to pre-register for your fingerprints. So before you go somewhere to get your fingerprints done for the background check, it's going to request that you pre-register for that. And there's a lot of different options you can go to for your fingerprints, but I chose the USPS because it was just quicker, and there's one near me and they do digital fingerprinting. It's fee of $50, and you just walk in whenever their hours are. You just go one time during that slot. And it's pretty quick and easy, and they send your fingerprints once you go and get those done. The USPS sends those directly to the Criminal Justice Information Services. So after you have that done, they'll just go ahead and automatically send those over. And once they actually process your fingerprints, they'll send you an email saying your electronic summary request is available for review on their website, which you have access to, because they should send you a PIN in your email to access their website. And this was done pretty quickly. I know pretty sure it was less than 24 hours for me to receive the online version of that, saying I was clear and that I had no history of criminal actions in the US. And you'll also receive a copy of this in the mail, but it's the same exact document, so you don't really have to wait on the mailed version before you get rolling with the next part of the process. So after you receive this note saying, hey, you're in the clear, you don't have any background that's violent, criminal, whatever, then that's when you start the process for getting the apostille. And this is done through the U.S. Authentications website, which I've linked down below as well. And you're going to want to print out a paper called Request for Authentications Service Form, also known as DS4194, and it's just a PDF link that's on the website. And some helpful hints for that, I selected self-addressed stamp envelope on there, and a really important part is on section 4, it says country of use. This is the country you need authentication for, not the US. So for me, since I'm going to Spain, I should have put country of use Spain, but I put the United States, and they ended up having to call me and say, what country are you going to? And that just prolonged the process. So to avoid any further confusion, I would just put the country that you're going to, that you need those authentications for. And the document type obviously is the FBI criminal background record, and the fee for this is $20. And so after you've filled out that form, you have everything together, the $20, you're going to take it to the post office, and I got a 2-day flat rate envelope, which is $8.95, and I got 2 of those. So the first one you address to the Office of Authentications in Sterling, Virginia, for me, since I'm using the DC consulate. And then you stuff the other envelope inside of the envelope that you're sending to the authentications office to get that paper back. So once the Office of Authentications receives your stuff, apostilles it, they're going to send it back to you. So the envelope that you stuff inside of the one you're sending to them, you need to put, it's from the Office of Authentications and to your home address. So you want to make sure that it gets back to your home address, and they're not going to worry about that. They want all of that done beforehand, so they want you to go ahead and put your address on it, so they can just throw your new papers in there and mail it. So this, I used the 2-day because it includes tracking, and it was just the quickest option, I think, for the cheapest. But I'm pretty sure you can probably use other options as well. And that took about 1 month to get my apostille back in the mail, so that's definitely the longest part of the process, and pretty stressful because I didn't really know where my documents were, what they were doing with them. So just be aware that this will take a long time, and don't stress out if it's 2 or 3 weeks and you still haven't received anything. That doesn't mean they've forgotten about you. That just means they have a lot of stuff to do, and maybe you're not the priority, but they're just doing it in the order that it comes. So while you're waiting to receive your apostille back on your FBI criminal background check, I would go ahead and get started on health insurance. So you're going to need a health insurance policy that covers you, specifically for me in Spain, and it has to have like 0 copays, 0 deductibles. There's a bunch of different requirements. So I just went with a Spanish company that is intended for foreigners, so it meets all of those qualifications already. You don't have to worry about, does it meet so and so and so. It states that it will clearly work with your visa process. So the one that I used is the Sanita's Spanish health insurance. It was about 550 euros because I paid up front for the whole year, because I'll be there from September to September. And I feel like this was a pretty good option. Obviously, I haven't used it yet, but it met the visa requirements and it's pretty affordable, at least coming from here in the US. I think 550 is doable for the whole year. And then you're going to want to go to your doctor's appointment whenever you have scheduled that. And when you go to your appointment, you need to bring a printed version of a document that they have a template for on the DC consulate's website. It has a English version of a little statement and a Spanish version of the little statement. And if you use this document, you do not have to have any more translations done to it because it's presented in English and Spanish, so you're covered. So the doctor will just need to sign that you're in good health. This part was pretty easy, just they sign it that you're in good health, and then they stamp it with their stamp from, their practice. So this part was pretty easy, no other translations, no notarizations required, just the doctor's appointment. But if you need that link, I'll also include it below. So another part that is required is your financial situation. My parents were put down that they supported me for the whole time I'll be there. Although I have loans, it was just easier to put my parents down because I didn't have all the loan paperwork ready yet when I was doing this. So for this process specifically, if your parents are supporting you, you'll need to print out all of their bank statements from the past 3 months. For the DC consulate, these do not have to be translated. Other consulates do require that it be translated into Spanish, but not the DC consulate. And they require that you have about 700 USD a month to support yourself. So since I'll be there for 12 months, this averages out to about 8,400 US dollars that has to be in their bank account to meet the Spanish requirements. And just to provide a little bit more authentication, I was a little confused about some of the wording on the website. So I just went to my personal bank and they wrote a note for me on their letterhead saying that the bank statements were authentic and that my parents were supporting me, just to provide a little bit of extra just in case the Spanish government had any problems with the bank statements or their authenticity. And then you're going to need to type a note on your computer. I think there's the wording on the DC consulate's website, but it's just saying your parents assume full financial responsibility for you while you're abroad, and they have to sign it, and then you have to get that notarized. So speaking of notaries, there's several things you're going to need to get notarized. You'll need the letter of financial responsibility if your parents are supporting you. You'll need a copy of your birth certificate, a copy of your driver's license, which proves that you are in the jurisdiction of the consulate you're using, and you'll need a copy of your parents' driver's license, whoever is supporting you. You'll need all of those notarized. And so since I live in North Carolina, notary publics here are not allowed to authenticate a document as a true copy of something. They can just say that they saw me sign that I said it was a true document. So make sure you know what wording to use for your state. You can look these things up online as well, but you get all of those things notarized. And at this point, you're probably going to want to start thinking about translators who can translate, because you need your criminal background check as well as the apostille translated, and the letter of financial responsibility from your parents. You also need that translated into Spanish, and it has to be an official translator by the Spanish government. So I'll link below the list of official translators for Spain. If you want a reference, I used Fernando Melero Garcia, and I'll link his email down below. He was very easy to work with, very quick to respond to my emails, and it was about 50 US dollars. I reached out to several different translators, and they were all about the same price. It's about $50 for the background check and the apostille together, and then I also, with the letter of financial responsibility, it was $60 total. and that includes shipping to wherever you're located in the US. But make sure that you have your letter of financial responsibility notarized before you go about the translation process, because that is a necessary step before you start the translation process. So reach out to whoever your translator will be. They should take, Fernando at least, took less than 24 hours to translate my documents, and then automatically sent me an email with those documents, and then sent me an envelope in the mail with the hard copies of those documents. And if you've gotten this far, you're almost done. You're in the last leg. The rest of it is pretty simple, pretty self-explanatory. You need to get 2 passport-size photos. I got mine from Walgreens. 2 photos was $15. Kind of pricey, but I didn't really know what else to do, so those met the requirements for the visa. Then you're going to need to fill out the national visa application. This document's pretty self-explanatory too. One thing to note is I would put multiple entries if you plan on going and leaving and coming back and stuff like that. And then it also asks for your address in Spain or whatever country you're going to. Although you may not have accommodation in that country yet, you are allowed to put the school address. So if you're going to the University of Barcelona or some other place in the country, you can use the school's address for that. Even though that's not where you're going to be living, it's fine, just put it for now. And then if they have any questions later, you can provide them with your new address once you actually get there. Obviously, you're going to need a passport, and you're going to need proof of an acceptance letter. The school should provide this, so it shouldn't really be any work for you. And then the proof of residence in the consular district. This was your thing that you got notarized before. You can use a school ID, or I used my driver's license for this. Just proving you're in the jurisdiction that you say you are. And then lastly, you're going to need $160 US. And I put mine in a sealed envelope inside, so just to help make it a little more formal. And then you get to the mailing process. You need to mail them in US Express mail envelopes. So you put all of your documents, including your passport, in one of those US Express mail envelopes. Address it to the Consulate of Spain in DC, and then you fold the other one that you bought inside of it, like the other stuff you did with the criminal background check and getting apostilled. You fold the other one in and address it to yourself from the Spanish consulate in DC. And so these are a little bit more pricey. They're about $26, I think, each, but it does include tracking on the way there and not on the way back, but it's okay. That's what they require, so you have to do it. And I also recommend to select the signature required section that's on the envelope, on the exterior of the envelope, just so they're not dropping it off, because if they drop it off and somebody takes it, that's your passport, that's everything. So if you select signature required, you're required to sign it before they drop it off or before they hand it to you. So I think that's a little bit more helpful, just to make sure, because those are very important documents that you're going to need in the future. So I believe that is it. That's the gist of it. It took about only 3 weeks to get my passport and my visa and all of that back in the mail. I was super excited about that, but if you have any more questions, just let me know, and I'll be happy to try and answer them down in the comments below. This video was helpful, and I wish you the best in your future endeavors if you're going through something similar, or if you're thinking about it, definitely do it. Just do it. And I'll be rooting for you. Have a good day.